Ahmad Pasha al-Jazzar was the Acre-based Ottoman governor of Sidon from 1776 until his death in 1804. During this period, he also simultaneously served 4 terms as the governor of Damascus, a total of 9 years. Al-Jazzar was a Bosnian of obscure origins. He began his military career in Egypt in the service of various Mamluk officials, eventually becoming a chief enforcer and assassin working for Ali Bey al-Kabir, Egypt's effective ruler. He gained the epithet of Al-Jazzar for his deadly ambush on a group of Bedouin tribesmen in retaliation for the death of his master in a Bedouin raid. Al-Jazzar fell out with Ali Bey in 1768 after refusing to take part in the assassination of one of his former masters. He ultimately fled to Syria, where he was tasked with defending Beirut from a joint assault by the Russian Navy and the forces of Zahir al-Umar. He eventually surrendered and entered into the latter's service. Al-Jazzar defected from Zahir and fled with stolen tax money. He was appointed as garrison commander of Acre following the Ottomans' defeat of Zahir. He set about pacifying Mount Lebanon and Galilee, which were dominated by Zahir's kinsmen and the Druze forces of Emir Yusuf Shihab, respectively. In 1776–77, he was appointed governor of Sidon, but relocated the province's capital to Acre, which he strongly fortified. In the following years, he defeated the forces of his erstwhile Shia Muslim ally, Nasif al-Nasser, consolidating his control over Jabal Amil. In 1795, al-Jazzar was appointed to his first of 4 terms as governor of Damascus, each time gaining increasing influence in the province's affairs in opposition to his rivals in the Al-Azm family. In 1799, with the help of British naval support, al-Jazzar defended Acre from the forces of Napoleon Bonaparte, causing the latter's army to withdraw from Palestine in disarray. His successful defense of Acre earned him prestige in the empire and made him well known in Europe. Al-Jazzar died in 1804 as the governor of both Sidon and Damascus. He was ultimately succeeded in Acre by his Mamluk Sulayman Pasha al-Adil, until his suppression of the Mamluk revolt in 1789. Al-Jazzar had appointed Mamluks to senior posts in his military and administration. Al-Jazzar attempted to develop the areas under his control by increasing security on the roads and maintaining order, but his domestic military expeditions and his stringently enforced taxation policies precipitated high emigration. Although cities such as Acre and Beirut prospered, the former became a powerful regional center rivaling Damascus and until today contains many architectural works commissioned by Al-Jazzar, such as its walls, the Al-Jazzar Mosque and the Khan al-Umdan Caravanserai. Early life and career. Origins. Al-Jazzar was born in Starlak, Bosnia Islet. One source lists the year of his birth as 1720, but historian Thomas Phillip believes it is more likely he was born in the 1730s. At the age of 20, or in his late adolescent years, around 1755, he moved to Istanbul. In Al-Jazzar's biography by Volney Voyage, Al-Jazzar's motive for leaving Bosnia at the age of 16 was that he had to flee because he raped his sister-in-law, while in Olivier's account, Al-Jazzar fled at age 17 after stabbing a woman who did not accede to his desires. According to Olivier, he then began work as a sailor and drifted throughout Anatolia before selling himself to a Turkish slave trader. Al-Jazzar subsequently converted to Islam in Egypt. Service with the Mamluks of Egypt in 1756. Al-Jazzar departed Istanbul for Egypt in the entourage of Hekmoglu Ali Pasha as a barber in his entourage. Hekmoglu Ali Pasha had been appointed Beylerbey of Egypt Hayalet and Al-Jazzar became member of his household. serving Hekimoglu Ali Pasha in the citadel. In 1758, possibly as a result of a dispute with another of Hekimoglu Ali Pasha's men or upon his own intuition, he accompanied Salih Bey al-Kashimi, a Mamluk, and the Emir al-Hajj, on the pilgrimage to Mecca. There, the two men developed a close friendship, and al-Jazzar subsequently entered into the service of Salih Bey. After returning to Cairo, al-Jazzar, who was then known as Ahmad al-Busnawi, entered the service of the Mamluk Abdullah Bey, who was a retainer of another Mamluk, Ali Bey al-Kabir, the Sheikh al-Balad, a powerful post in Egypt with unclear duties, between 1760 to 1766. During his time in Abdullah Bey's service, al-Jazzar learned how to speak Arabic, learned the skills and knowledge of the Mamluks and adopted their dress. When Abdullah Bey was later killed in an attack by Bedouin tribesmen, al-Jazzar decided to avenge his death. He proceeded to set a trap for the Bedouin and ambush them, killing around 70 Bedouins. Thereafter, he became known as al-Jazzar, which means the butcher in Arabic. While later European writers believed al-Jazzar gained his name because of his cruel nature, the name was given to him as a sign of respect. The term al-Jazzar as an epithet was typically reserved for those who slaughtered Bedouin raiders. Al-Jazzar arrived in Egypt as a freeman and was not a Mamluk in the traditional sense. However, the respect and admiration he gained from the Mamluks of Egypt for his loyalty to his Mamluk master and the revenge he took on the Bedouin for his death earned him a welcoming into the Mamluk ranks. He was thus counted as a Mamluk emir. Among those impressed with the loyalty and courage of al-Jazzar was Ali Bey al-Kabir, who adopted al-Jazzar as his protege. Ali Bey appointed al-Jazzar Sanjak Bey, and he became known as Ahmad Bey al-Jazzar. Al-Jazzar was tasked with enforcing law and order in the province, but was also assigned to discreetly eliminate Ali Bey's enemies. He shared this task with Abu al-Dahab at times. In September 1768, Ali Bey instructed al-Jazzar and Abu al-Dahab to assassinate Salih Bey because Ali Bey perceived him as a threat to his power. Al-Jazzar was wary of killing his old friend and master, and proceeded to warn Salih Bey of Ali Bey's plot. Salih Bey did not believe that Ali Bey, a close friend and ally, would have him killed and dismissed al-Jazzar's warning, going so far as to approach Ali Bey himself and report the matter. Ali Bey denied the plot and informed Salih Bey that he was only testing the loyalty of al-Jazzar. Salih Bey was indeed ambushed and killed by Ali Bey's men. Al-Jazzar was present among the kill squad, but did not participate in the actual assassination. Abu al-Dahab, who was also present, reported al-Jazzar's lack of enthusiasm to Ali Bey. Fearing for his life in lieu of his betrayal of loyalty to Ali Bey, al-Jazzar fled Cairo dressed as a Mughrabi. Before leaving his home, he instructed his family to tell anyone who sought to inquire about him that he was ill and could not see visitors. Ali Bey's men sought to arrest al-Jazzar and learned of his escape to the port of Alexandria, pursuing him there. However, al-Jazzar managed to board a ship heading to Istanbul hours before the arrival of Ali Bey's men to the port. Early career in Syria. Information about al-Jazzar between 1768 and 1770 is unclear, according to historian Thomas Phillip. He may have drifted through Anatolia to Aleppo. According to the chronicler al-Jabati, al-Jazzar returned to Egypt and allied himself with a Bedouin tribe to confront Ali Bey, but fled the province a second time. However, by 1770 it was clear that al-Jazzar was in Deir al-Qamar, a Druze village in Mount Lebanon. He was impoverished there to the point that he was forced to sell his clothes in order to buy food. For an undefined period of time, al-Jazzar remained in Mount Lebanon before searching for employment in the coastal cities. He did not have success finding work and left for Damascus, where he was also unable to gain employment. For a third time, al-Jazzar traveled to Egypt, this time to retrieve money and other valuables from his home in Azbakia. To avoid detection by the authorities, he dressed as an Armenian. His trip to Egypt was short and he subsequently returned to Syria. In 1772, the Ottoman commander-in-chief of the Syrian provinces, Uthman Pasha al-Wakil, and Emir Yusuf besieged Sidon to oust the forces of Zahir al-Umar, the autonomous Arab ruler of Palestine, and Nasif al-Nasser, the autonomous Shia Muslim ruler of Jabal Amil. Zahir consequently requested the Russian fleet to bombard Beirut, which was virtually controlled by Emir Yusuf, to distract the Ottoman forces. The siege was lifted in June prior to the Russians' arrival in Beirut. On the 18th of June the Russians began to bombard Beirut, but Emir Yusuf paid them to end their assault on the 28th of June. Fearing that Zahir would occupy Beirut, Emir Yusuf requested al-Wakil to bolster Beirut's defenses. In response, al-Wakil dispatched al-Jazzar with a force of Maghrebi soldiers and appointed him Mahafiz of Beirut. Al-Jazzar upgraded Beirut's fortifications. According to Philip, Beirut became the first stepping stone of Ahmad Pasha al-Jazzar's career in Syria. Meanwhile, in a sign that enmity for al-Jazzar by the Mamluks of Egypt was still strong, Abu al-Dahab offered 200,000 Spanish reals to Emir Yusuf to kill al-Jazzar in 1772. Emir Yusuf refused the offer. However, instead of defending Emir Yusuf's authority, al-Jazzar used Beirut as his own power base, justifying his presence as being in defense of the Ottoman Empire. Emir Yusuf demanded al-Jazzar withdraw from Beirut, but the latter refused, prompting Emir Yusuf to appeal to al-Wakil. The latter did not accept Emir Yusuf's request for assistance. Viewing al-Jazzar as a reliable representative and whose control of Beirut would both prevent another important Syrian port city from falling to Zahir and provide a launch point for an offensive against Zahir, Emir Yusuf rallied his Druze forces to dislodge al-Jazzar, but the latter was able to bribe the deeply factional Druze clans against each other and stave off Emir Yusuf's attempt. Emir Yusuf then sought to form an alliance with Zahir to oust al-Jazzar, gaining Emir Yusuf the enmity of al-Wakil. A punitive expedition sent by al-Wakil targeting Emir Yusuf in September 1773 was repelled by Zahir. Zahir's success prompted Emir Yusuf to seek the assistance of the Russian fleet by appealing to Zahir, the Russians' ally, to intercede with the Russians on Emir Yusuf's behalf. The Russians agreed to the request and began bombarding Beirut on the 2nd of August. Al-Jazzar initially refused to surrender despite the heavy naval bombardment. However, after the Russians managed to land artillery pieces near Beirut and cut the city off by land, al-Jazzar decided to surrender to Zahir. 4 months after the siege, fearing that Emir Yusuf would kill him in custody, al-Jazzar only agreed to surrender to Zahir specifically because the latter promised to protect him and his Maghrebi garrison. Escorted by an envoy of Zahir, al-Jazzar subsequently headed for Zahir's capital, Acre. Al-Jazzar entered into Zahir's service, and Zahir dispatched al-Jazzar and his men to help collect the Miri from the area between Jaffa and Jerusalem. Al-Jazzar decided to defect from Zahir's service by requesting employment by Ibrahim Pasha, the Sanjak Bey of Jerusalem, but the latter refused al-Jazzar entry into the city due to suspicions that the request of service was a ploy by Zahir to conquer the city. With Miri money that he stole, al-Jazzar departed for Damascus, where he was welcomed by al-Wakil. Al-Jazzar then left for Istanbul. There, he used his charisma to gain the favor of Sultans Mustafa III and Abdul Hamid I. He was subsequently appointed the Sanjak Bey of Afyon Sanjak in western Anatolia.